Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 20th of December 2022. We've got 10 days left till the year comes to an end, but we've got lots to discuss with you today as well. And we'll begin with the international assistance that Pakistan needs to deal with the floods. Minister for Climate Change, Shabbir Sahiba, has said that 20 million people who've been affected by the recent floods are dependent on humanitarian aid, while the flash appeal that was made by the United Nations has only had 20% of the $816 million that had been pledged by the international community. Also, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urged the IMF, the World Bank and the international community to support Pakistan in dealing with the devastation that has been left behind by these unprecedented floods. Also, the House has adopted the Global Change Impact Studies Center Amendment Bill 2022. Minister for Climate Change, Shabbir tabled the bill. This was also a bill regarding climate change. This is going to be our first segment. Our second story of the day pertains to the Sindh government that has come under fire at an event for lack of concern and action towards the growing environmental degradation in Karachi that was described as a bowl of poison because of its worsening air quality. This was an event that discussed Karachi's ignored toxic air quality and the mounting health toll. Now, the health toll is of course mounting. We have a lot of issues that concern environmental pollution in Karachi, in Lahore as well, and these needs to be catered to. This is going to be our second segment. Then we'll be talking about the Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte on Monday officially apologized for 250 years of the Netherlands' involvement in slavery, calling it a crime against humanity. This apology has come 150 years after the end of slavery in the European countries' overseas colonies that include Suriname and islands like Curacao and Aruba in the Caribbean and Indonesia in the east. And finally, we'll be talking about more than 190 countries that have approved a historic deal to reverse decades of environmental destruction that have threatened the world's species and ecosystems at a Marathon UN Biodiversity Summit earlier yesterday. This is going to be the lineup of what we are going to discuss today. But we'll begin with a very important announcement that was made by Khaja Asif Sahab in the joint sitting of the Parliament. He said that the operation that was going on at the Bannu CTD Center has concluded. The hostage situation has ended. All the hostages have been freed. All the terrorists have been killed. This was confirmed by Khaja Asif, who is the Minister for Defence. The clearance operation was also finished by 2:30 p.m. this afternoon. That was also confirmed by him. The operation was initiated on the 20th of December at 12:30 p.m. by the Special Services Group, and all the terrorists have been killed, quote unquote. He also criticized the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government for the increase in terrorist incidents in the province, and he said, quote unquote, it is a total collapse of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government. Now, we had the situation in Bannu, and of course, now that the situation has ended and all the terrorists have been killed and the clearance operation has ended, it brings forth a lot of important questions to mind as to terrorism and terrorism in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. We've also seen some forms of terrorism in Balochistan, but the terrorism is more concentrated in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and of course, it has been confirmed that the TTP have claimed responsibility for this incident. Where to go from now, of course, we'll be seeing, and all eyes will be on the provincial government as well as on the federal government as to what are the measures that will be taken. But it is a huge success as far as our armed forces are concerned, our SSG are concerned, who overtook a complex operation and emerged successful. This was our leading story before we began the lineup for today. So let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns climate change and Pakistan's need for international assistance to deal with the floods. More in the following report.
It has been almost 5 months since massive rains along with apocalyptic floods struck Pakistan, inundating a third of the South Asian country, and thousands of victims are still lodged in tents, shelter camps or along highways across southern Sindh and Balochistan provinces. Treacherous winter may kill thousands more in Pakistan's flood-hit areas, since thousands of displaced people still lodging in tents are suffering from cold-related diseases. Minister for Climate Change Senator Shabbir apprised that 20 million people affected by recent recent catastrophic floods are currently dependent on humanitarian aid. The flash appeals by the UN have received only 30% of $816 million pledged by the international community. The catastrophic floods caused loss and damage worth $30 billion. Rehabilitation and disaster reconstruction needs are at least $16.3 billion, and this amount does not include investments required to support Pakistan's adaptation to climate change and overall resilience of the country to future climate shocks. The global lender World Bank has approved $1.692 billion in financing for 5 projects in the flood-hit provinces of Sindh. Leading COP27's agenda was a historic moment for Pakistan as it urged the developing countries to mobilize on the issue of climate justice and highlighted the urgency to tackle climate-related issues, but international community has to take meaningful actions to assist Pakistan in rehabilitation and climate-smart reconstruction.
Farhan Ahmed Khan, who's the country director, CESVI, joins us online. Farhan Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. 20 million people have been affected by the recent catastrophic floods. This has been stated by Shabbir Saiba, and they are dependent on humanitarian aid. Why, in your point of view, is the aid not coming? And why, if it is coming, is not coming in the amount that has been requested by Pakistan?
Okay, thank you, Omar, for having me. Basically, overall, 33 million people are affected, but amongst them, the 20 million are those who are worstly affected and need external humanitarian support urgently. So that the minister was referring to the 20 million who are the worst of the worst affected. The problem at this moment globally is that there are way too many disasters. The conflict between countries as well as the natural disasters we are facing, the whole world is facing. There is Ukraine ongoing. We have a drought in Somalia. We have a big flood in Nigeria. Then we have problem in the Middle East like Syria and Yemen. So basically, the countries who used to give humanitarian aid, they are overstretched and they are overburdened. But the Pakistan case is a different case. We have to understand that what is the magnitude of the disaster here? The magnitude is 33 million people. This is twice of Holland. This is half of the population of the whole Italy. This is a very big number. And then we have to see why it happened. Should we say this is just a natural disaster? It happens just because there is more rain happen and there is flooding in the rivers? I think the answer is very clear, and the answer is no. This has happened because we, the habitant of this world, destroy our climate. We damage our climate, and amongst those who destroy the climate, those countries who are so-called developed countries or those are so-called industrial countries, they have contributed more into the global warming, into the climate change by having more carbon emission, by having more producing more greenhouse gases. So this is a disaster which is a climate change induced, created by humans by virtue of so-called development and industrialization, and Pakistan is a victim of this global crime. So Pakistan's case is different, and then there is third thing: should a country like Pakistan can manage this disaster at its own? And the answer is no. If this disaster could have happened in the West, in any country, I'm telling you that this is not possible for a country who is much more developed to manage this disaster by its own. So that is why it is a responsibility of the international community to support these people who are the victim of a climate change induced catastrophe. Why the
all right, Farhan Saab, I'd like to understand also there are different aspects to the effects of climate change and the effects of these floods that have devastated Pakistan. And one of the major ones, before we go to others, one of the major ones is food insecurity. If you look at the numbers that were quoted by Shabbir Saiba, she says 14.6 million is the number of people who still need emergency food assistance, because of course 30 million plus people have been affected, but 14.6 million still need food assistance from December 22 to March 2023. 3.9 million people in Sindh, 1.6 million in Balochistan face severe food insecurity. 5.5 million people no longer have access to safe and clean drinking water. Are the aid agencies cognizant of this fact? Do they understand the devastation that is being caused and will be caused if the help does not come in the required amount?
I think the Pakistan, the current government, our Minister Rahman, the Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto, and the overall Pakistani diaspora, Western world, international organization, and the UN chapter of Pakistan, I think we put our case quite well into the international community. As I said, unfortunately, there are too many disasters ongoing at the moment. The global economy is not in good shape all over the world. So the amount of humanitarian aid that needs to come in for these people is not there. It is true. But I will still say that the aid is coming, although numbers are low, but the aid is coming. The government of Pakistan is doing its part. I think we have to understand as well our responsibility being Pakistani as well. We have done it number of times. We have done it in 2005 earthquake. We show to the world that we are one of the most resilient nation in the world, and we can do it at own. We did it in 2010, and now it's 2022. I think we also need to come forward. The people of Pakistan who can afford, the well-to-do people, the rich people, the people who are privileged, I think this is their responsibility as well. Our corporate sector, the CSR of the corporate sector, I think this is something we all need to gel in. We all need to contribute our portion, and only then we can support these people to the recovery. And you're very right, food insecurity is going to be a very big challenge. And I tell you why. Look, Balochistan, they don't do cotton or rice or wheat or sugarcane. So they do fruits, and a fruit tree need years to grow to reach to a maturity level. Then it gives you fruits that you sell and you earn money and you have your livelihood. Now those fruit orchards are destroyed, which means the people who are involved in the livelihood with those fruit orchards need at least 2 to 3 year minimum to have their livelihood back from the same source. Before that, they need some support. They need support. In Sindh, again, the water is still stagnant in the fields. So they have lost the crop this year. Because when the flood hit, the crop was almost ready, cotton crop, dates crop, sugarcane crop. So that was destroyed. They lost the next season, and now there is some chances that a portion of that people who are affected will going to have the next cropping season in 2023. So they missed two cropping season. So those who are completely dependent on this agriculture, I'm talking about the tenants, I'm talking about the sharecropper, I'm talking about the poor farmers who and small lands. They can't do anything. They have to sell their livestock because they don't have fodder to feed those livestock. They don't have amount to do the vaccination and veterinary services for their livestock. So they also sold those livestock as well. So now their livelihood, which is dependent on two things mainly. One is the cropping, and the other one is the livestock. They don't have both of them. So that is why food insecurity in the rural part, in those people who were dependent on the agriculture economy, is really a big issue. And that is why we need international solidarity, because today is Pakistan, tomorrow it could be any country. The United Nations Secretary General very likely said we should not sleepwalk over these disasters and climate change. Today is Pakistan, tomorrow it could be any other country. So I think the friendly country came forward, Turkey, China, US as well. We need more support for at least next 6 months, internationally and nationally. All together, the corporate groups, the NGOs, the local NGOs, international organization, the UN, and only then we can achieve the target. But I tell you, the road to recovery is long. It's
All
not
right.
easy.
The road to recovery is long, tumultuous, but nevertheless, it is a road to recovery, and this is a road that in which everybody has to contribute their own part, or else Pakistan needs, all the sectors to come together as one. Nevertheless, winter season
Sure.
is upon us, Farhan Saab. The fact remains that many children need the proper shelter, need the proper food, need their vaccinations as well, especially the polio vaccination, which have been stopped because of these floods. This said, we need clothing, we need shelters for all the people who've been affected. And then the health hazards, which include so many diseases that have grappled people who've been affected by the floods. Is Pakistan, in your point of view, doing enough, or will we come back to the same thing that we need to do more and we need to move in quickly before it's way too late for those people who've been affected and devastated by the floods, health-wise, or even due to this winter season?
Look, again, I have to tell you that the scale of the disaster is huge, is humongous, it's tremendous. It's not I think the question is not that are we doing enough? I think we are doing our best. I can tell you, I remain in the field for last almost 3 months. I have visited all these places like Dadu, Shikarpur, Sakhar, Khairpur, Nusherof Rose, Mirpur, all these places, Sobatpur, Jafrabad. I have personally visited all these places. And when I see there, the aid is going. The thing is that our aid and our support is not matching with the magnitude. The magnitude was so huge. You can see villages of the villages are underwater and everybody is affected. And why these floods are more devastating than as compared to the 2010 floods. In 2010, we have mainly the riverine floods. So floods came because of the overflow of the rivers. So people knew that it is coming from one direction and they can even escape. They can rescue themselves. They have some time. This time it was heavy pouring. It was all rain, and you have no place to go because the rain was all over the place for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers.
True,
And
true.
also the rain changed the pattern. We have received as many as 9 spells of monsoon. Never happened in the history of this country, even before
But
150
Farhan
years.
Saab,
Never
those
happened.
are the effects of climate change, and that is something that we need to grapple with, and we need to be ready for in the future months as well. Nevertheless, there is a very important conference that is going to be held on the 9th of January 2023, which is
Geneva.
going to be with the United Nations, and I hope that the countries by that time would have understood Pakistan's plight and will also take part with all of their might and all of their strength to help Pakistan come out of this current crisis, because what Pakistan is going through because of the floods is no fault of Pakistan. It's because of climate change, it's because of carbon emission, whereas Pakistan, and I have said this multiple times, emits less than 1% of carbon. Thank you so very much, Farhan Ahmed Khan Saab, Country Director, CESVI, to have joined us for this very important first segment that concerns the rehabilitation, the reconstruction after the devastating floods, and how it is the responsibility not only for all the sectors in Pakistan, but also for the international body to come together as one to help Pakistan in this hour of need. Our next segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the environmental pollution and how cities like Karachi are at the brunt of it all, have been labeled as one of the worst cities in the world as far as environmental degradation is concerned. There was an event that was lately held on Karachi's ignored toxic air quality and mounting health toll, and a lot of questions were raised. More in the following report.
Air pollution is increasingly becoming one of Pakistan's main environmental concerns, with metropolitan cities positioned at center stage as the most affected from environmental degradation. Karachi has been described as a bowl of poison due to its worsened air quality, taking a heavy toll on everyone, including pregnant women and their unborn children. Plastics swamp the Arabian Sea coastline, where the sewers of the sprawling port city of Karachi spew its waste. According to United Nations, single-use plastic bags kill up to 1 million birds, hundreds of thousands of marine mammals and turtles, along with countless fish each year. A recent study titled Recurring South Asian Smog Episodes revealed that South Asia accounts for around 32% of global mortality linked to exposure to exceptionally high levels of poor ambient air quality, and pollution crisis emerged complicated due to numerous key structural weaknesses, including lack of suitable infrastructure and an uneven approach to regulation and enforcement. The underlying causes for deterioration deteriorating air quality in Pakistan a lack of innovative techniques by relevant departments, the sluggish response of local government system, obsolete infrastructure, and dearth of public awareness. Air pollution and environmental degradation in Pakistan is a multi-dimensional problem that cannot be effectively mediated without the open exchange of proper information and the capacity building between all the relevant institutions.
Maryam Shabbir, who is a leading environmentalist, joins us online. Maryam, pleasure to have you on board for this important segment. Maryam, when you look at environmental pollution, we have to immediately refer to the National Waste Management Policy 2022 that was passed by the Ministry for Climate Change. Do you feel this is a very credible development as far as taking care of such issues that plague cities like Karachi is concerned? And how, in your point of view, does this policy envision sustainable air quality and waste management at the same time as preserving the environment of our country?
Thank you, Omar. I think as it was told in this short segment that this is like multi-dimensional issue. So I would take from that. And of course, a policy related to waste management is very important. It's like the first step towards doing anything, and policies are always good. But if policies are on the papers and there is no implementation, then there is a problem. And that is the problem with, I think, every environmental issues in Pakistan. You see that after 18th Amendment, every province, including Sindh, have their own environmental policy. And according to that policy, EPAs are responsible to monitor and provide solutions for a lot of environmental problems, including waste management, including air pollution. But we have seen that those institutions have failed, and the provincial governments have failed to address this issue, be it air quality or waste management. But I think in moving forward, I think the only solution which I propose now is that all provinces must agree to have air pollution control secretariat to curb this issue, because it's grave concern in all major cities of Pakistan, and it is deteriorating health of many. And that air pollution control secretariat should be established at federal level. We know that after 18th Amendment, it is with the provinces, but provinces alone and federal government alone are not doing enough to curtail this problem. And members from administration, EPAs, provincial EPAs, experts from environmental sciences departments, academia, private sector, industry, transportation sector, everyone should be part of that, and they should be reporting to the Air Pollution Control Secretariat on quarterly basis, and should monitor solutions, and should ask industry what can be possible solutions, and academia should be carrying out research, civil society should bridge communication gaps, and media should play its role for reporting and making provincial governments accountable. I think, in my opinion, in my view, that can be only way forward. Otherwise, the governments are unable to control this problem, and carpooling, congestion charges would also improve the situation in every city, including Karachi.
Maryam, in 2015, a Lancet report said 22% of annual deaths in Pakistan are caused by air pollution. Recently, there was a whole report on the air quality index as far as Pakistan and cities like Karachi is concerned, and that came to between 101 and 150. There are so many reasons, there are so many factors that contribute to this increase in air quality index. What should be the responsibility, A, of the citizens of cities such as Karachi, and B, of the administration of Karachi? Because of course we've got vehicular emission that causes this. We've got so many cars that are not properly taken care of, due to which there is an increase in the AQI. What are the other factors in your point of view?
Omar, you just mentioned transportation sector, and that is actually the leading cause. 50 to 60% air pollutants and air quality issues are caused by transportation sector. Of course, behind that, the leading cause is, of course, fossil fuel burning, which is the basic one, of course, and whatever sector, be it industry or other sectors using that, of course, contributes to that. But also, projects like Orange Line, and public transportation, improving engine quality. If cars are being produced in Pakistan, government should make sure that the engine is, of quality, and it doesn't emit a lot of pollution into the air.
Have a good mass urban transport system. I think that is also one of the good solutions. that could be a green, that could be, fueled by electricity or in such a manner that there is less air pollution?
Of course, and apart from transportation sector, which is the biggest cause, there are a lot of it's
industrialized sector, Maryam, the industry,
yes.
the huge emissions by those sector also need to be controlled properly.
Of course, the clean technology in industry and urban planning, town planners role comes here, and then of course planting trees, improving mangrove trees in Karachi, particularly if you are talking about Karachi, and there are a lot of related and cross-sectoral issues which are related to air quality, but the biggest one, like you also mentioned, transportation sector and industry. If we are able to focus on that, a lot of issues can be solved. But also, as you mentioned in the beginning of this segment, is of course waste management issue, which is the
that is a huge issue, and it's just not for Karachi, it's for other cities in Pakistan as well.
Of course, I think comprehensive strategy should be devised to tackle, waste management issues. And, waste management is a huge, potential for businesses. And I think private sectors should jump in, small and medium enterprises can take care of it. And it generates a lot of revenue. Look at Germany, they produce a lot of money from waste, and this is kind of opportunity for a lot of youngsters to come into this field and to help environment, but to also earn a lot of money when it comes to waste management in Pakistan.
I mean, that's a very interesting, point that you've raised right now, talking about the involvement of the youth and that they should come together and earn some kind of livelihood through that, which brings me to economically feasible, cost-effective solutions to achieve clean air. Do you feel our youth, our economic sector, or all those brilliant minds that are present in our country can contribute to new and effective measures that could effectively clean the air in cities such as Karachi?
Of course, Omar, so you see a lot of, students come up with innovative solution. You might have come across in past few years. I remember there was this solar rickshaw devised by one of the student from Punjab, and there were like a lot of e-bikes from one of the student from, I think it was also from Punjab. But a lot of innovations are being carried out in Karachi as well. There was one of the innovation from the Karachi University student, which was like, related to plastic solution. She developed a thin layer of plastic which was biodegradable, and even you can eat it, if I remember exactly. So there are a lot of solutions, innovative solutions, which are being generated by youngsters, by academia, but the problem is that those doesn't reach to the industry and to the private sector. And I think here comes the role of technology transfer offices in universities, and their role should be to connect academia and students with innovative solutions to the industry, of course, so that the private sector and industry can also sit together and see if they are interested in to sort of expanding on those patents produced by academia or students and faculty, and translate that into kind of bigger businesses. And there are a lot of, Pakistani youth have a lot of potential, but the problem is that they do not have relevant platforms where they can showcase their talent. They do not have right investments, and to the students and youngsters, I also want to mention that if industry or private sector, you go there and they are not interested, you can take loans from the banks. They do have like green loans and all that, and you do not have a lot of money to establish your business. If you do not have any saving, you can just start by taking green loans from different banks, and you can start your business by just doing feasibility studies and all that. And
True.
and a lot of youngsters on small and medium enterprises scale, they are doing such business, but that scale is of course small. That's why do not see significant change in
All
air
right.
quality.
Speaking of change, I'd also like to understand how we can get rid of the waste. When you look at Karachi, there are so many areas where waste management is a huge issue. Do you feel innovative measures could be taken to take care of that? And if so, do you have some measures in mind that the government could use, that the private sector could use? Because this waste creates a lot of toxicity in the air, and that is what also causes the different diseases prevalent amongst people in Karachi.
Yes, Omar, actually, there are like a lot of standards being practiced by around the world, and Pakistan can also opt from it. To begin with is, of course, to segregate waste at source, and here comes, of course, the individual roles and a role of the society. And through segregation, then transportation protocols should be set up, and waste should be transported, to far areas of cities, not within city, of course. And then, there are measures like, in which, waste is treated away from the cities, away from the population. It does produce energy, and you can meet energy requirements from treating your waste. And of course, there are other ways, like you just take the example of Delhi. There are a lot of practices in which what they do is, and even restaurant, what they do is that they do not throw their kitchen waste. They produce energy out of it, and they, cook meals on those energy. So these small practices can be taught to, of course, and institutions can play a role in that, to the communities, to the masses. And of course, they have this energy crisis and gas issues for cooking. We don't have gas and stoves to cook our
Another methodology is recycling. Why are we not using the whole recycling industry on procedures properly in order to take care of the waste on one end and then use it for energy, as you yourself have said?
Yeah, of course, recycling is another way of saying it, for a kind of domestic waste, I would say. But when it comes to plastic waste, I'm a strong opponent of that. I mean, I use the term refuse plastic waste, because plastic industries are creating huge mess all over the world, including Pakistan, and I think they should step in also to play their role. And I think they are now becoming part of conversation, now becoming part of meetings with civil society, at least, which I have seen. And I think that is also kind of way forward to include them in dialogues, so that they are aware, and they can make themselves accountable, of course, and they can come up with solutions. And some of the private sector which are producing like a lot of plastic pollution, I won't name them here, but they are taking responsibility, but there is like a long way to see results of that. And of course, and also a lot of responsibility comes at individual level and at community level, of course. What we see that
a huge responsibility, because it all starts from your own self and then your homes, the way you take care of the waste material. If you are not cognizant of that, then how can you convince your neighbor or even the other people in your neighborhood to do the same?
Yes, just take the example of Karachi we were talking about. Go to sea view, you see a lot of waste inside, sea. I mean, that is also apart from dumping off by the government, of course. They should also take care of it. They should not dump, because it is greater risk to the aquatic life in Karachi. I myself have seen like a lot of waste.
So have I.
On sea view, and they dump waste in sea, which is like, I don't want to use harsh terms, but it's like, everyone knows what kind of, you don't have to.
But Maryam, I understand the importance of civic responsibility. That is mine and yours as individuals, as citizens of Pakistan. Do you feel that the administration across Karachi or in other cities needs to implement stringent measures? Before we continue, we will have to cut this program short, because we are short of time. But we'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Thank you very much, Maryam Shabbir, to have joined us. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow. Allah Hafiz.